Then we have unicellular and multicellular organisms. You know, unicellular organisms are made up of only one cell, and that cell carries out all the function needed by the organism, while multicellular organisms use many different cells to function. Now, what are the unicellular organisms? You have studied about bacteria, protist and yeast. They are all unicellular organism. Then example of a protist, paramecium. It is a slipper-shaped animalcule, isn't it? It is a unicellular organism found in pond water. It takes in food from the water and digests it in organelles known as food vacuoles. So it has all the apparatus required for its maintenance. Nutrients from the food travel through the cytoplasm to the surrounding organelle, helping to keep the cell and thus the organism functioning. So all the organism is kept functioning by the whatever is present inside the cell. So it is in the case of a unicellular organism. So each cell, whether unicellular or multicellular organism, acts as an autonomous unit. That means self-sustained unit. It is able to carry out activities independent for its own survival. So independently it is able to carry out its activity. Then it can obtain food, oxidize them. You know that in cellular respiration, what happens? Food is oxidized and energy is produced and stored in the form of ATP. Then each cell can respire and exchange gases with its surrounding. So there is an exchange of gases between the cell and its surrounding. Each cell can synthesize the own macromolecules and micromolecules. So there are macromolecules and micromolecules, okay, that are present inside the cell, which are synthesized in the cell. Proteins are synthesized, isn't it, inside the cell. Then with the help of its lysosome, each cell discards its worn out components. So whatever is the waste material, that is also thrown out from the cell. Just like in the whole organism functions, same way even the cell can function at the cellular level. Then there are, in multicellular organisms, there are more than one cell, with groups of cells differentiating to take on specialized function. And what do you call that group of cells? We call that as tissues, isn't it? So there are tissues which perform a specialized function. In human cells, differentiate early in development to become nerve cells, skin cells, muscle cells, blood cells. So there is a, when they are cell is at an initial level, it is then it divides and then they become differentiated to perform certain functions. So their structure is related to their function. So as they are differentiated, there is some slight differences in their structure, okay, so that they are able to perform the activity for the purpose which they have to fulfill. The cells of multicellular organism may also look different according to the organelle needed inside of the cell. For example, muscle cells. The main function of muscle cells is the production of energy. So muscle cells have more mitochondria than most other cells. Then cells of the pancreas, they need to produce more proteins. So they will have more ribosomes. You know that ribosomes are the seat of protein synthesis. So the ribosomes are present on the rough endoplasmic reticula. So there will be more ribosomes on the endoplasmic reticula. Although all cells have organelles in common, the number and types of organelles present reveal how the cell functions. Okay, so it depends on what is the function. Okay, according to that, the organelles will be there. Then there is a flow of energy through the cell. That each cell has a flow of energy inside it. That cells obtain energy from its surrounding. In which form? In the form of light energy. Like plant cells, no, they have chlorophyll, so they absorb the light energy. Or the animal cell, they obtain energy in the form of the chemicals which are synthesized by plant or other animal cells. So they obtain chemical energy. Okay, then they store it in the form of ATP. Energy can be stored and then utilized in the form of ATP. So that is how there is a flow of energy through the cell. Then there is also a flow of genetic information. You know that in the nucleus we have chromosomes, and chromosomes have DNA, isn't it? So this, all the information about all our characteristics that is stored in the DNA. So the basic flow of genetic information in biological system, it is known as the central, it is known by a scheme which is known as the central dogma, the central scheme. Okay, this scheme states that all the information is encoded in the DNA. So from DNA it comes to the RNA. Okay, from DNA to RNA, and that process is called transcription, which you will be learning in detail. So information from DNA is carried to the RNA by the process called transcription, and then the RNA will then translate this information and proteins will be synthesized. So transcription and translation are two main link to the flow of information. Okay, then the proteins will be synthesized, and then any characters will be expressed inside the cell. So this is the flow of information at the genetic level. Okay, the genes, so that we will learn in detail. And then there is also a flow of extrinsic information, that is just like whenever there is an external change, we call it stimulus. So we are able to sense that. Okay, same way the cell is also able to sense any information that comes from outside. Okay, and then it takes steps accordingly. Like the information that comes from outside the cell, from certain stimuli like some ions, metal ions, hormone, etc., that information is called as outside, extrinsic, or information from outside. They provide their information to cell to modify their activities. So according to the information obtained, the cell will modify its activities. So there are certain molecules in the body which serves as receptors. So you can see here on the membrane some receptors are there, or even inside the cell there may be some cellular receptors. So when the molecules bring some information, this receptor, they gather the information and then produce some cellular effects inside the cell. Cellular receptors also, they take information and then they will control either the production of any protein, either they will induce the production of any protein which is needed to produce that cellular effect. So these all we will study in detail. So this is just an overview of what you are going to study. Then compartmentalization for cellular life. So you know that cell is present in a limited compartment. It is bounded by a cell membrane. So every activity goes on inside the cell membrane. So cell is separated from other cells. It has a specific microenvironment so that it can work very efficiently. Okay, so it is having this compartmentalization so that it can be able to live and work in separate areas. So each cell has its specific function. So it gets a separate area, just like we have a separate house, and inside the house also you have separate rooms. So same way the cell has separate organelles where specific functions are carried out. So this compartmentalization is also important for the best efficiency of the cell. So you can see the cell membrane is physically separated, but yet it is able to exchange material with its environment. And the functions of cell are performed by the organelle. Inside the cells also there are, just like I said, specific rooms. Here organelles are there which have specific function, but they all work together. Division of labor means they are dividing their work so that the cell as a whole can function as a self-sustained unit. So that is about the cell. Now we will discuss about the organelles in the next class.